Circle.
Welcome to the epicenter of sports and entertainment. This is the Rude Dog Show. Now, here's your host, Rudy Reyes.
Welcome to the Rude Dog Show. Good afternoon, everybody, and or good evening, depending on what side of the coast you're on. And of course, this is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Welcome by Mr. Bo Crouch. Bo, how are you, man? It's been a minute. How's it going?
It has. Yeah, it's been a while since we've been on a show together. Doing good, man. How about you?
I'm doing good. You know, the usual suspect, just trying to get things rolling here. And there's always a downhill before you get to the uphill slope. Speaking of downhill slope, yesterday was a slope in the NFL. Lots of games, lots of surprises. But I think what was more surprising was last night, Bo, as we've seen safety Brian Branch basically give a smackadoo to Juju Smith-Schuster after they lost in Kansas City. Is it poor sportsmanship? Probably. He suspended one game, at least by the NFL, and he'll have to come back and play against the Bucs on Monday night. But was this like a cheap shot heard around the world, or do you think Brian Branch has a legitimate beef here to smack Juju Smith-Schuster across the noggin?
So, I mean, no. Like, you never want to see this, right? I get the timing of it because he knew if he did it during the game, he'd hurt his team, although ultimately he hurts his team anyway. But, yeah, I mean, you know, they're just not talking about the, you know, some of the stuff that happened during the game between them that, you know, maybe some cheap movements from Juju that kind of boiled over to after the game. But no, I mean, it's never okay to haul off and smack somebody in the face. You know, so he deserves to get in trouble, you know, plain and simple. Should have just let it go. But,
well, there was some ruling that actually came down from the NFLPA, and the former NFL offensive lineman said, you know what, your aggressive non-football act was entirely unwarranted and, quote, posed a serious risk of injury and clearly violated the standards of conduct and sportsmanship. Don't forget sportsmanship. That's a big deal. It's a big deal expected of NFL players. You conducted your conduct reflected poorly on the NFL and has no place in our game. He's absolutely right. He had every reason to come down hard on this. And of course, this could be only overturned by former Bucs player Derek Brooks, Pittsburgh Steeler Ramon Foster, and former Packer Jordy Nelson, who's a part of the NFLPA's basically smack your hand collective bargaining agreement that some players agreed on, some didn't. Of course, that's not even up for debate, at least at this point. But he will be back. As I stated earlier, he'll be back Tuesday the 21st, following the 20th game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So they're going to miss him. How much? I don't know. But I did see a report earlier that UTEP, out of all colleges and their infinite wisdom in their data analyst department, had come up with an algorithm stating that the NFL themselves and officiating within the NFL body has given the Chiefs more free passes, no pun intended, or maybe there is. And if there is, I don't care because it's true, have given the Chiefs more often than not the benefit of the calls because they're the media darlings throughout the National Football League. Now, I'm not a Kansas City Chiefs fan. I don't have a dog in the fight, but I can honestly see in a variety of plays, and every time they play and every time they're on the highlighted, you know, Sunday Night Football or Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football, that there is some benefit of the doubt given to the Kansas City Chiefs. Is this myth or mystery, or is this a reality?
No, that's a real thing. I mean, you've watched that really over the years. Best example of that was last year. There were 3 games in a row where there was pass interference. 2 of them were against KC. Two of them was KC doing it. One of them was against KC. KC was the only one that got the call. One of them, they just straight tackled the receiver for Atlanta in the end zone. no PI call. So, I mean, there's no question that there's a lot of calls that go their way. Now, is it a conspiracy? I don't know if I'd go that far, but it is a little bit suspect that they do tend to favor Casey.
Well, they do, and they continually get the right calls to go their way. When they're 3rd and long, there's some type of offsetting penalty. There are makeup calls throughout the National Football League. This is not like a mystery, folks. This is actual reality. They have makeup calls for teams that don't get the calls, as we've seen this past Sunday when the Steelers' DK Metcalf was held by Campbell on coverage, but they didn't call the play. They didn't call the flag. They didn't throw the flag at all. Under any circumstance, they call a flag. There was no penalty on that play, which there clearly was. He grabbed his arm, he pulled him around the side and swung him around like he's on some type of merry-go-round, but there was no flag called. So a lot of makeup calls going on in the National Football League, and it has been for quite some time. This is not a mystery. This is not fake news. This is reality. Speaking of reality, there's a reality setting in for Brian Callahan. I didn't see this coming. Should we have seen this coming? Maybe. Fired by the Tennessee Titans today after going 1-5 this season, overall 4-19. And with new draft pick Cam Ward, he's not the only quarterback that has basically ousted his head coach, not by their decision, mind you, but because they weren't aware of the guy that was playing underneath them. The guy that they selected, they helped select to get into the next level and to take their team to the promised land. Now, don't forget, this Titans team, won one game? One game. I mean, the Jets are winless. We'll talk about them in a minute. But was this about time for the Tennessee Titans to take this type of control? Because ownership basically sat him down this morning and said, quote, "These decisions are never easy. They become more difficult when they involve people of great character." Character doesn't mean you're going to win football games. Let me just kind of square that off right off the bat. To tell them we're making change at the head coaching positions, Chad Brinker sent a statement that they become more difficult as they involve people of great character. We're grateful for Brian's investment in the Titans and Tennessee community during his tenure as head coach. And it goes on. My problem with this firing is first, it was overdue. But when we look at it from the coach's perspective and their families, got to put that into perspective also. This affects the families too. This isn't about just firing a head coach. All of a sudden, oh, okay, well, we're good. Now he's going to go on his merry way with his kids and find another place to coach. It's not that easy. These kids have friends in school. The wife has friends that she's built relationships with throughout the Tennessee community in Nashville. Yeah. So this isn't just a get up and move.
Well,
how is this coach's life shaken up?
So they're not shaken up that bad. And why I say that is coaches' contracts are guaranteed. So that's why a couple of years ago, there was the stat that came out that there was $780 million worth of coaching contracts in the NFL for coaches not coaching. And a lot of those don't have stipulations in there that require them to go get another job to help offset whatever they're owed. A lot of these, you just get the money. We watched one happen, today in college. We'll talk about later. But I mean, so it doesn't really do a lot of shakeup there. And the statement of them saying it's hard because of character, they're lying. They are 100% lying right there. Now that's a good soundbite. You have to put that out as an ownership group. You want to make it sound like it was a tough decision, all of that. What makes that decision hard is the dollar figure that you're going to pay them to go anywhere else. That's where the sticking points generally are. Because you can bet if he was making $100K, they would have fired him already, right? But when you're making, upwards at $8 to $10 million a year, all of a sudden you have to rethink it, because not only are you going to pay him all of that, but now you still have to find someone else to fill that role. So do I think that it was overdue? I mean, it's tough to say. I think your GM probably should be the one that's out of there. At the end of the day, they keep giving coaches nothing to work with. I mean, they made Vrabel look terrible by the end of his tenure there. Vrabel's a great coach. But if you don't have any talent on the team, and that team played hard for him, but there's just nobody on the team. Sorry, but you're not going to win a lot of games. The NFL is highly competitive. And if you're at the bottom echelon of all of your position groups, you're not going to win a lot. It just is what it is. So do I think Callahan should have been fired? Sure. Do I think it should be an entire front office wipe? Absolutely. Because you are starting on your third rebuild in a row here. Like you're not even completing a rebuild. You're just continuously blowing up the thing that's blown up. So, I mean, if anything, they need new GM, new front office, or maybe some new ownership. Maybe that's what the problem here.
It could be a variety of things. I mean, we have to keep this in a perspective. Outside of the money that the coach is owed, which is great, and I'm glad he'll be able to receive all that money that he has been desiring. That's what he signed up for, right?
Sure.
This is about relationships. And so the relationship within the National Football League, will he get another opportunity as a head coach? I don't know. I've seen a lot worse coaches get more opportunities in other parts. Look what happened in Chicago.
That's usually a who you know kind of situation. Right. So maybe he does have some high profile friends within the league and maybe he'll get another shot. I don't think we saw enough out of him for him to get that other shot.
I don't know, but when your record is 4-19 exactly. and including the first 1-5 season, I mean, look, in all fairness, Ken Whisenhunt, who had a worse record than he did, went on to coach for 2 more teams and his record was 3-20 and it was worse. Was his next stop a head coach, or did he go back to being a coordinator? Because realistically, for Callahan, he will probably have to be a coordinator again before he gets another shot as a head coach. Correct, and that's what happened to Whisenhunt. He became a coordinator again, which I believe Callahan will. He was a very successful coordinator, and again, and we see this all the time where coordinators don't do great at football head coaching. We just did. McDaniels, same thing. Daniels in New England, same thing. Wasn't a good head coach, but he was really good at calling offense. Well, he went back to New England, and now he gets to play with his old buddy. Well, somebody he probably used to coach, and that is Mike Vrabel. You mentioned Mike Vrabel. One thing about Mike Vrabel, and the thing that really sticks out to me, was you talk about ownership. Ownership within the Titans organization itself is not very secure. Will they clean house? Will they look at anybody else as an interim? Well, they went ahead and assigned somebody, as Mike McCoy will attest to, as being the interim coach of the Tennessee Titans, at least for now, and maybe over the remainder of the season until they find a head coach in the offseason. And in turn, the NFL draft in 2026 will be held in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. But I think that you really have to look at yourself in the mirror. If you're an organization, man, what are we doing? Or what are we not doing? What should we be doing? How did we get to this point? So that's certainly a question that needs to, that definitely a beg to be asked. But I think what the icing on the cake was, and I think it boiled over in week 3 when they lost 41-20 against the Indianapolis Colts, who, by the way, who continue winning despite the one loss and is on their route to not only owning the AFC, South, obviously, and still has, there's a ton of games left. So I'm not crowning them champs by any means, but they certainly have a very good record, and their play with Danny Dimes, it's unreal. It's unreal. Nobody thought Dan would do anything. He wouldn't go anywhere. He's drafted to do quarterback. The Giants drafted him, wasted draft pick, blah, blah, blah. But now look, he's flourishing. Same thing about Sam Darnold. He's flourishing. The only 2 quarterbacks that are not flourishing at the same draft is who? Justin Fields, who is an absolute joke. Sadly, he was a Pittsburgh Steeler for at least one season. And then secondarily, Geno Smith, who continues to blow the minds off of people who claim he's going to be a good quarterback, but yet to throw it to the right people all the time. And of course, the lonely Vegas is only, their second win of the season. It just doesn't look very good for them. Now let's add some more logs to this fire. Trevor Lawrence in 21 had Urban Meyer fired. We know why Urban Meyer was fired, because he was a team obliterator. He talked trash to everybody, his own players. So no big mystery about why Urban Meyer's no longer the head coach. And he's lucky he has a spot on the Fox newscast. I can't see so much for Mark Sanchez. That's another story all into itself. And then that's just a sad case of I'm dumb and I'm going to be dumber today in Mark Sanchez's case. Then 2023, Bryce Young, Frank Reich was the head coach there. in Carolina. Of course, he was a first overall draft pick by the Carolina Panthers in their induction year, right? Then we see Caleb Williams.
So that's where I want to, interject a little bit, because some of these are just fit issues, right? I mean, and that's the problem with a lot of these first-year head coaches, similar to high draft picks, is they're going to terrible teams, right? So great example is there's a reason that Miami took Zach Wilson, right? And it's because you've already seen the blueprint here of, Sam Darnold drafted by the Jets, terrible there, right? Terrible situation, but terrible with the Jets.
The Jets.
Exactly. I mean, they do nothing to cultivate talent. But so you have Sam Darnold. He leaves there. He goes to the Panthers. It's kind of up and down there. He has an overnighter with the Niners, right? And then goes and has a fantastic year where he finally had a good team around him. And then he comes here to Seattle, and he's played well since he's gotten here as well. So then you have Geno Smith, also drafted by the Jets. He, ends up being a backup a couple of different places, comes to Seattle, has a really good few years here in Seattle before he goes on and has played horribly with the Raiders. Although, again, that's another team that doesn't have a lot of great pieces. So when you look at Zach Wilson, bad with the Jets, there's a theme here. And then you go to, the Broncos, you're with a competent head coach. And then, they're like, hey, we get him for free. We'll take a flyer on him. Then you look at a guy like Justin Fields, also goes to a organization that doesn't cultivate talent with it as a quarterback. They haven't had a 4,000-yard passer in their entire history. So he plays there. He goes and has a couple of days with the Steelers. He has 4 games, and realistically, those 4 wins were mostly because of the defense scoring points as opposed to him really doing anything special. But then he goes to the Jets, and people are like, oh, he's going to be great with the Jets. It's like, what in history tells us he's going to be good with the Jets? They do nothing to make talent better, and he's somebody that needs help. He needs development, and he just went to arguably one of the worst quarterback developing squads in the league. So, I mean, yes, I agree that, some of these guys get shortchanged, whether they're draft picks or coaches. If you go to the wrong fit, it's going to be bad.
It's going to be bad. It's going to look bad. It's going to look bad on the head coach. It's going to look bad on you. But most of all, fans don't deserve that. Year in and year out, we see this unfolding in every single sense of the word. You can change a head coach. Great. Change your starting quarterback. Great. Can't change the organization because they are who they are. They run through the ringer every year after year, because it's how they do business. And that's a shame that fans have to be the ones to suffer at the hands of organizations that don't know what they're doing. Why is that the case?
I mean, and that's ownership, right? Like, that is an organizational problem. And how you know that's the case is it's the same teams forever, right? It's the Bears. It's the Jets. It's, a lot of the time been the Giants.
Browns.
The Browns, always a hallmark of dysfunction. Honestly, Miami hasn't been anything to speak of since Dan Marino was there, really. So, I mean, you're talking about organizations that have a history of being terrible, and you can't blame that on the coach or the GM or the players, because those have all changed through the years. Mm-hmm. The only thing that stayed true in those scenarios is the ownership. Washington, another one that, hadn't been relevant since the 80s. You know what finally got them relevant? New ownership. So
that's right.
These owners need to move on, because they are the problem, because they dictate all of these pieces. It's almost like Jerry Jones is a great example of this, where, he wants to play chess against other teams, but he wants to be the king and then only have pawns. He doesn't want to have anybody else that can dictate to him in any form. So he's like, I'm just going to run with an entire thing of pawns. And then he wonders why he can't win when another team comes in and they got rooks and castles that are just wiping him out.
Well, he's too busy playing checkers while everybody is playing chess.
Exactly.
And that continues to be the case for him, his organization, regardless of how much money they have. They don't seem to know how to spin it in all the right places, keeping players like Emmitt Smith, keeping players like Deion Sanders, keeping players that really and keep head coaches on top of it. And we see this happen every single year for the Dallas Cowboys.
They do keep coaches, though. So the thing that's funny is they don't keep
they didn't
good
keep Jimmy
coaches.
Johnson.
No.
Won him a title.
And that's why I say they don't keep good coaches. He wants yes men, which is why you have Jason Garrett for a decade. And, you had Mike McCarthy longer than he should have been there. And as soon as he started being like, hey, I want to make some decisions, he's like, yeah, you should probably go. So, I mean, these are the types of things that Jerry Jones, and that's why I made the analogy of just playing with only pawns. Because as soon as somebody wants to have any kind of leadership that is going to go against anything Jerry wants, it's a wrap. Right. You got to get out of there. So,
exactly. And the Jets are the organization. That's what I wanted to kind of dig into next. We seem to know who they are, but how to win with Justin Fields under center at times, seemingly who magically forgot how to play football for whatever reason. He digresses as to what he looked like when he was with the Chicago Bears, thrown into a horrible system, thrown into a Matt Eberflus system, which is absolute garbage. He wasn't ready. He wasn't prepared, had no mentoring quarterback to speak of to lay back on, say, hey, man, what do you do? How do you do this? What way do you do it? When do you do it? Nothing like that. No maturity component to help him improve as a quarterback. And look, a lot of starting quarterbacks, Ben Roethlisberger didn't teach anybody nothing, sure. and because he wanted to do his own thing when he wanted to do it. And unfortunately, the Jets, just like the Bears, still don't have backup quality quarterbacks to learn from and to have a mentorship from them or by them or with them. Now,
some of that's on coaching, though. Like if you don't have player development, then you need to stop getting players that need to be developed. Go get veterans that can just jump in and do their job. Because if you aren't going to be a team that develops players, which the Jets aren't, the Bears aren't, the Giants largely haven't been, the Browns definitely aren't, right? So if you're going to be that organization, then you need to go get veterans, right? Ones you don't have to develop into something. You already know what they are.
Right? But veterans aren't falling off the tree. You have veterans out there, Bo, but you don't have great backup, guys that you can thrust into. We see what happened with Joe Flacco and the Cincinnati Bengals. They almost won that game, but almost doesn't count. You can't throw a guy who's been throughout the league. The only team he hasn't been on in the AFC North were the Steelers. And the Steelers at one point, and fans anyway, were crying to have Joe Flacco because the quarterback play was absolutely horrific. You heard that last year and the year before that. So finally, they got it fixed. They got it fixed by getting who? A veteran who knows how to win. And that's Aaron Rodgers, as weird and as stumbly-bumbly as he is as a person and as a player. He's found something with the Steelers team that seems to resonate with everybody. But because there's backup, quality guys like Rudolph, he's learning something from Aaron Rodgers. Just to see him lift and throw that ball off that back foot, which is not his throwing foot, his back foot, being able to make those dying throws to DK Metcalf was absolute poetry in motion. And because DK Metcalf was reasonably, you can suggest this, doing the same thing from Russell Wilson and other quarterbacks in Seattle, he was very familiar with that type of game style. So DK Metcalf had 2 touchdowns, by the way. So, again, the proof is in the pudding. And literally, and to your point about coaching, yes, you're right. Coaching plays a very viable role in regards to, the guys they get, who they get, when they get, and why they get them. They get them because of the intangibles. Justin Fields does not have any intangibles. He's digressed to a point where he's benched. But benched for who? Who? There's nobody. They don't have anybody. And that goes to show that the organization had no plans whatsoever to get a quarterback. Even Mike Tomlin said this about Zach for the Cincinnati Bengals, that the head coach and the general manager. Why are you going to go get a guy, thrust him into a starting spot, and expect for him to be the guy that you want him to be for your organization? It doesn't work that way. It's not going to work that way. But, won't work this way.
The other thing that, Tomlin brought up is he's like, they must be smarter over there than we are, because why would you give a guy who was your week 1 starter to somebody in the division that needs a guy, right? I mean, you're basically giving somebody to your direct rival who can beat you, and honestly probably will beat them later in the year.
Well, yeah, not only that, but the Browns, certainly went down. Haven't won in Pittsburgh since 2003. So what does that tell you? How many quarterbacks have the Browns started since 2003? Let's think about that.
Every single one.
A ton. Every single one. That's right. Every single one. Speaking of NFL related things, it was kind of touching for me yesterday when I seen Joshua Hines Allen of the Jacksonville Jaguars have his son on the field, has been battling cancer as an honorary captain, which really goes to the testament of what I've been saying my entire career and 12 years of doing this, that it's about the relationships. And the relationship doesn't necessarily mean mano y mano. This is mano y son. And it was very touching yesterday. And I quote, yesterday, Wesley stood with me at a midfield as an honorary captain. At the beginning of the year, I didn't know that that we'd even get here. When they said leukemia, everything else went silent. Cancer's a killer. You know this. The game, the stats, none of it mattered anymore. The only thing I cared about was my son. I quote, watching Wesley fight changed me as a father. Kate, Julian, Vanessa, all children, obviously, and I leaned on each other harder than we ever have. And as a captain, I learned what real leadership looks like. It's about how you show up for your community, how you use your voice when it matters most, and how you turn your pain into purpose for others. Wesley's in full remission right now, but so many families are still in their fight. That's why 4-1 for Hope exists. So basically what that means is every Jacksonville Jaguar sack this season will give $410 to organizations to help families like ours, because every family deserves the same support that got us through. To the parents, siblings, and caregivers currently sitting in treatment rooms, you're not alone. To the kids still fighting, keep pushing. Wesley did it. You can too. That is so touching. I ran across this on LinkedIn earlier this morning. I thought to myself, man, what would happen if I reached out to his agent? Of course, I hadn't received a response from his agent yet, but maybe I will. If I do, then I'll get him on the show. But it was just so touching to know that cancer affects everybody. This is not an isolated disease. This is a disease that has killed millions and millions of people in my family, people maybe or in your family. And this is such a great story in the sense of this is a human story. This isn't about, well, look at me, I have a son who, had leukemia. No. This is not about that. This is about helping people find a solution. Of course, there still is no cure for cancer.
In fact, in the comment section there, the original founder of Let's Talk Sports, that's how he passed away, was leukemia. So,
yeah.
And he actually started Let's Talk Sports specifically because he had a stage of leukemia that had him bedbound for basically a decade. And so he started this podcast organization specifically just so that he could interact with the outside world. So yeah, no, I mean, it definitely hits everybody.
It does. And it does not discriminate, ladies and gentlemen. So make no mistake about it. This is a real disease, a real disorder, and whatever you can do to help mitigate cancer, go get checked, go get screened, go get looked at. There's no reason for this at all whatsoever, because the earlier stages that you find it in, the better you can fight it and win. I want to shift to WNBA because despite the Raiders not playing the Raider way, as Al Davis had stated it, the Las Vegas Aces, what a remarkable journey they had this past season. They were down so many times during the regular season. They made some off-season acquisitions. They made some trades. Asia Wilson, Defensive Player of the Year, two-time Defensive Player of the Year and Finals MVP in the same season, just really pushed the envelope with this team and got these gals to really kind of buck it up and say, you know what, this is one game we lost. Okay, fine. We got to get back on it. We got to make things change. And they certainly did, outing the Phoenix Mercury in this contest and throughout the series, basically. But fell short in 2024. Do you think that this maybe will help the Las Vegas Raiders kind of find momentum in the sense of this is a Vegas team, they've won a championship, but where are we? Can we do something like that?
No, because you're talking about a organization that had a team built for a championship, and the other one is in the middle of rebuilding. So, so this one, this is definitely apples to oranges. They're at different stages. Now, that being said, the WNBA is going to be a wildly different landscape next year, just because of so many things that are happening this particular offseason.
The
But
CBA.
what's that?
The CBA. It's a big deal.
It is. What is even more, what adds to the CBA situation even more is 90+% of your veterans are only signed through this year.
Correct.
So that's because they didn't want to still be under contract when they redo this CBA. So basically this coming year, including the 2 expansion teams that are coming into the league, if a team was so inclined to purchase an all-star team, they'll be able to this year. Like if you wanted to go buy a ring, this is your year as a WNBA team if you wanted to do it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely right. And, once the CBA gets worked out, which I think it will, to what extent, I don't know. But between the acquisitions of Caitlin, Clark, who unfortunately and untimely went out for the Indiana Fever earlier in the season and was not able to play any type of postseason play and what have you, women like that have been that have found themselves in the situation where this is my first year, this is my first issue. This is the first I've heard of it, that have changed the landscape of the WNBA and look at this beyond just saying, well, this is just 1 year. Well, what about the next 3 years? What about the next 4 years?
So she is, and all the rookies they are still stuck with the CBA that they're under, right? So they're on their rookie deals. Their rookie deals are kind of what they are. But, as that gets reworked, obviously there will be more money, but they're the ones that are going to be on the team that they were drafted by, right? Because they're still under contract from those organizations. It's going to be all of the other pieces, all of the people that have been around the league a long time or through their rookie contracts. So you're going to see an incredible shift just all around this league going into this next year, provided they get it done. I mean, as it sits right now, the 2 sides really aren't communicating very well, and we are 2 weeks away from that CBA expiring. So you're getting really close to a situation where there might be a lockout, and the WNBA is sort of overplaying their hand a little bit because they're trying to block their players from being able to join the unrivaled league. Well, when you have most of your stars not under contract, you don't get to dictate to them. So now you're looking at a league that doesn't want to pay them. They can make more with unrivaled in 11 weeks than they do with 4 months with the WNBA, or they're going to go overseas. I mean, there's so many other places you can make as much, if not more, than you do in the WNBA. If you overplay your hand here, they're not going to have much of a league to, fulfill this new TV contract.
Well, that's really what it's about. It's about broadcast rights, which is a separate entity to the CBA. What they should also be thinking about, how college students in the NCAA receives NIL money. Well, individual players in the WNBA should also be receiving their own individual type of NIL money. And I say that because if they feel that they, like Asia Wilson, prime example of that, she can ultimately win
endorsements, man.
Well, true, but to have those endorsements on their uniforms to be shown, whether it's Adidas wearing their shoes or if it's if they want to wear a New Balance or things of that nature, if they wanted to go there to get extra money outside of the endorsements and commercials and such.
Leagues always dictate that, though. So,
but that would be part of the CBA too. It wouldn't just be a league-wide thing; it would be involved in the CBA.
No, because that falls then on the teams, right? So like when you look at the NBA, right? Most of them have a sponsor. That's through the league. That has nothing to do with the individual players. They're not going to let the players go out there in a NASCAR uniform with 500 patches on them. It's just not going to go that way. So the endorsement deals for the players have to be off the court. And some of those,
I get those.
Similarly, like you're not going to be able to do some of the, like I remember there was a time, Spalding, I think was the ball for the NBA when Jordan was in. And, he had I think he was sponsored by Wilson. So he he couldn't pose with a ball that wasn't a Wilson ball. So anytime you saw him with a Spalding, it was a game speed shot.
Right, where you can see it. Right. But I'm just saying that players themselves, by making more money, there should be some type of clause or maybe an interactive clause to say, if you're not every player in the NCAA is treated differently when it comes to NIL money. That's just a fact.
Yeah, of course.
So that should be applicable to those players that are in the WNBA. This is not the NFL by any stretch of the imagination, but in the WNBA to say, well, we're going to give you X amount of dollars if you do this, that, and the other. I'm just saying that there could be an alternate, maybe a give and take in that regard for teams that want to experiment with that component to see if that would make financial sense to do so, right?
Yeah,
because you see the Lakers do it, you see the Clippers do it, every team does it.
The thing with the thing with that is those aren't even the sticking points, because there's not enough money there when it's figured into all the players, right? Like the big endorsement deals are going to go to your all-stars, and then your lower level stars, they're going to get some local deals with car dealerships, stuff like that. And then your bench riding guy, they're probably not going to get anybody. So where they're really trying to get this put together is, for those of you watching that aren't familiar, the WNBA just signed an 11-year, $2.2 billion TV contract. So what the players want is their cut of them making this league profitable, right? And so they are trying for the 50% revenue share that literally every other professional sport does. So it's not like they're asking for something unprecedented here. They're asking for something that literally all other pro sports do. And they weren't asking for it when the league was losing money. That'd be like going to your work and asking for a raise when the company is trying not to go out of business. You're like, okay, yeah, I get it. There's not raises right now because we're losing money every year. But now you have record sales, and it's going to be for the next 11 years. Yeah, that's when you walk up front and be like, hey, we helped get this ship right. Reward us for being part of the process that helped get us there. And we're not asking for a ridiculous figure. We're asking for a revenue share that we've seen work in every other professional platform. So I don't really see what the issue is from the ownership group. The ownership group is trying to fight that and keep as much control as possible. And honestly, it could ultimately backfire and have a whole bunch of the talent go to this startup league. And the last thing the WNBA wants, when you are finally starting to become relevant and getting major contracts with, TV broadcast, is to force yourself into a lockout and lose half your stars.
Right. No, absolutely right. You don't want that to happen. You want to be able to save as much money as possible. But again, give where it should be given to those players, to those teams, to those organizations. And so, you know what? Here is your piece. You do what you will with it. But until the CBA comes to fruition, it's a stalemate, complete and unadulterated stalemate. And because of the rookies that are stuck within their respective teams that they signed on with, well, they're kind of SOL, at least at this point, until those rookie contracts expire. And then at that point, they can renegotiate in regards to what that's going to look like moving forward, or become a free agent and sign on with another team and so on. So,
that really depends, because if they botch this thing enough, you can just retire and then go to a different league.
Well, true. Yeah, you could technically, I guess. Yeah, you retire and go somewhere else. I know I would if I could. Retire and go somewhere else.
Fair enough.
That's always a bonus, right?
Yep.
Speaking of retiring, Major League Baseball is one of the largest and most lucrative amounts of monies in all of sports. We all know that. NFL's capped, NBA's capped, luxury tax and all that. But Major League Baseball just absolutely blowing up the scene in regards to monies. There is no cap in baseball. And that's why some of these guys play so much money. Now that could change. Again, talk about another CBA, Bo, in regards to what that looks like moving forward next year. Right. So that could change. But as of right now, this is a bank, the bank of MLB. And if you win in postseason and you get to certain rankings and you get to certain thresholds and you cross those thresholds, you have the ability to make more money, a lot more money. Not only that, but a championship ring, a pedigree underneath you that will add and amplify to your career, make your resume look that much better. Oh, yeah, it's on. Speaking of on, we know that the Blue Jays are taking on the Mariners right now. The game was tied at last I checked.
So Mariners are up 6-3 as it sits right now.
At 6-3. Okay, great. And that kind of segues into what I was just going to talk about, because during the regular season, we've seen a 3-game skid where the Mariners fell off the rails against the Blue Jays. And it wasn't even close really in any of these games, to be honest with you. Barger had a breakout performance. He doubled 3 times for the Blue Jays. He had 2 ribbies. Ultimately led to the Mariners' collapse in the series. But then here comes game 2 with George Springer smacked a 3-run homer. Barger continued his onslaught where he left off with the first home run of the season for him. And the Mariners, who are looking for answers, only managed a 1 run against Toronto's pitching, which is absolutely fabulous in game 3. Back to the front for the Blue Jays. So as we see this, pitching has had all the right answers with Urena and Lauer combining for 6 2/3 inning in that 3rd game. But Seattle's inability to continue the win streak with good batting, good infield ball play, pitching obviously is your first line of defense, just wasn't there. But for some reason, now that you mentioned it's 6-3, what are we, top 6?
We are the bottom of the 5th.
Bottom of the 5th. So we're headed to top 6. So now the bigger question is can the Blue Jays come back to the rest of this game? And not just the game, but the series. In the series, or do the Mariners have their number and can they go up 2-0 against the Blue Jays?
Well, as I recall, when they played the Blue Jays earlier in the year, they were also without a couple of their pitchers. We had a couple of guys that were injured. But to your second question there, I hope not, because I'm a Mariners fan. It'd be really cool to see them go to the World Series.
Real surprise there. But I want to give a shout out to Bankroll U. Go download the app today. You get it at the App Store. It's on your Apple. They're working on the Android component of that. Trust me, when I get that, I'll be downloading it on my phone. It's called Bankroll U, or you can go to thebankrollu.com and download the app from the App Store there as well. Go throw them a follow as well. They're a proud sponsor of the Rude Dog Show right here, and only right here, the exclusive sponsor of the Rude Dog Show. Last before we go, Bo, when I look at this, when I look at the Dodgers series against the Brewers, and that's going on tonight as well, we're obviously a double game of 4 teams on tap for tonight, which is fabulous. I can't wait to watch that series. That's going to be great. But what's really interesting when you look at this series, it's an 80-game amount of wins against the Dodgers during the regular season, and the Brewers only holding an 8-game winning streak over the Dodgers currently, which started on August 14th of this year. I was listening to the Blake Snell presser, and Blake said something quite interesting. He stated that he really likes what the Dodgers are right now. And he went on to say he doesn't believe in this Brewers team being the underdog and blah, blah, blah. Look, these guys are the best record in the National League, okay? This isn't a smoke and mirrors one-trick pony show. The Brewers they have the record for a reason, because of their hitting, because of their pitching, because of what they've done every single series up to this point. And this is where they're at against a very good LA Dodgers team that always has the payroll, always has the players. Shohei Ohtani showing out every single time he gets up to bat, or pitch for that matter. We could see that in this series against the Brewers. Whether or not that comes to fruition will be up to Dave Roberts. But the way that I see this series, it's going to be a long one. It's going to be long and arduous. But I know this. When I look at the Dodgers and I look at the lineup and I look at them historically winning championships on a consistent basis, well, they're out of contention 1 year, but they're back in it the next year, and then they're back in it the next year. Do you think that the Dodgers are going to basically unwrap secret weapons, not name Clayton Kershaw, against the Milwaukee Brewers in this series tonight?
I mean, the thing is that the Dodgers should win. They have $1 billion payroll. So I know a bunch of it's deferred, but even with so much of it deferred, they're still the second highest payroll in the league, right? So obviously they should play well. That being said, I would much rather see the Brewers and the Mariners make it in. Now, obviously the Mariners end of it isn't just a homer pick. I just think it would be cool to have the Brewers, a team that's never won the World Series, against the Mariners, a team that's never been. right? Because then you're going to get a new winner no matter what happens. Neither team has ever gotten there, has ever won. Obviously, the Mariners are the only team in the league that has never been to a World Series. So that would be the matchup that I would like. But, it's tough to take down the juggernaut of the Dodgers because there isn't a cap on the payroll. They can kind of do whatever it is they want. And that is actually what some of the CBA that's coming up at the end of next season is.
Correct.
Is the ownership wants a salary cap because they don't want to pay, they don't want to have the first $1 billion contract coming out, and the players don't want a salary cap. So it's going to be interesting to see how that comes together because there very well could be a holdout yet again for baseball. And if you remember the last time they had one, it took a long time for baseball to recover. It actually took the steroid era of denting cars in the parking lot because every ball was leaving to really right the ship for baseball. Because the first few years out of that lockout, it was ugly.
Yeah, no, it was very, very ugly. And before they expanded and decided to expand and make Major League Baseball what it is right now, I don't know that the commissioner really had a whole lot of choices in regards to what he needed to do to make this league really what it is today. But, again, apples and oranges, because I still think the NFL is king. Ratings don't lie. Baseball's great and everything. But to your point about watching these guys go back and forth to see the Mariners take on the Brewers, now that was good. The last Mariners series was fabulous. I had a chance to watch Mizrachi. The guy is just elite. He pitches so well. He's so consistent. I love his seam fastball. I love the way that his body mechanics are great. And he's a rookie. And that's the best part about it. Unfortunately, he won't win Cy Young. That will go to Paul Skeens of the Pirates. But when I look at this game, I look at the series, this is going to be a dog-eat-dog series between the Dodgers and Brewers. And despite the Blue Jays being down right now, I expect a solid comeback from them. They didn't get to this point because, they didn't have the hitting or they didn't have the pitching. They're certainly going to make a run of this and make this a real series. But the Mariners just look so good with Cal at bat. You have so many pieces to this Mariners team.
The Mariners have one of the best pitching staffs in the league. So, it's a tough out for teams against the Mariners, especially because they finally did something they just never do, is they went and actually got better at the trade deadline. Usually they don't do anything or they end up trading a guy away or whatever.
Right.
This time around, they actually did something useful at the trade deadline, brought in a couple of bats, something they've refused to do for the entirety of my life. And, so it's nice to see that they're going to finally pair this great pitching that they have. In fact, the pitching gets even better because Wu comes back off injury for this series. But now they finally have some bats to back up the pitching that they've had for a couple of years.
Yeah, no, I'm waiting to see what they're going to unleash, and will that rotation look a little bit different for Game 3 than it does in Game 2? Will they mess with their rotation any? I don't see the Mariners making any changes in their rotation because if Cal Raleigh is just the as advertised player, if he's probably not in the top 3, they're screwing things up because he's just an absolute gem. The guy's been hitting like a beast.
Of course he is. The guy that has really come to life is Polanco, though. He produced some major hits in last series and yesterday. 2 of those runs came from Polanco. So he's been a huge asset for postseason play.
Right, exactly. No, you're right. He is. Whenever I see that guy at bat, I think to myself, that's out of the park. Like almost every single time I think about it, it's like Cal Raleigh's just going to knock something out of the park. I just foresee it. He's such a likable guy. He's so nice. And he does so many great things in the Seattle community, and obviously a massive gem for the Seattle Mariners. Bo, hey, where can everybody reach out to you, connect with you on all your social media platforms, and what else do you have going on?
Yeah, so you can find me on all the socials at Football Talk with Bo, my YouTube channel at Football-Talk, and things coming up. We have our daily show that is it's called Coast to Coast Sports, and that is 7 a.m. Pacific time. That is broadcast on YouTube, Roku, and then, of course, our Wednesday wrap-up that is also on 97.3 Radio out of Atlanta.
Well, there you go. Wonderful. Hey, go check out Bo. He's got some great stuff going on, and may have to join you for that early show. I like early. As long as I have my tea, I'm good.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. Hey, everybody, check it out. Go follow Bo. He's a great guy. Love having him on the show. Always a solid guest. Knows what the heck he's talking about, and always appreciate your time, Bo. Thanks, man, for coming on. We'll do it again.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
No problem. Thank you. That was Bo Crouch, everybody. Great guy. Love talking to him. I reach out to him every so often just see how everything's going for him. But hey, like I said, go to Bankroll U, download the Bankroll U app. They're a proud sponsor of the RudeDogShow.com and .net for that matter. Go to my YouTube channel, subscribe to this if you like the content. I really hope you do. This is great stuff. This is Rudy Reyes on the Rude Dog Show. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys real soon. Thanks a lot, and have a wonderful day.